Hi everyone. In this video, we will be looking at the basic modeling tools in Forma for creating site limits, zones and constraints. We'll touch on how to add roads and trees, and then we'll model up a basic building. So inside of Forma, you'll notice down the bottom of the right uh, um, down here, we've got like some navigation tools. This is quite handy for this particular exercise because we can, by clicking this button down here, we can switch quite easily between 2D and 3D mode. That's how we go about drawing things a little bit more accurately. We also have a tool here, which just allows us to orient ourselves to north quite quickly. So we're looking at here an example of what we'll be doing today. But to start off, I'm just going to go into a version or a proposal that doesn't show our buildings. So the first thing you want to do after you've set up your buildings and project, or your context and project, is to start adding some limits. So in order to do that, I'm going to go into 2D and I'm going to orient myself. Now I'm also clicking the shift and holding the mouse button in order to move around in orientation that I want to draw in. So in order to create what's called a site limit, we might call it a site boundary, you click on the limits tool in the design tab here and then click on site limit. And that will give us some drawing tools. We can either choose to draw it freeform, or we can choose to draw a rectangle, which I'm going to click here. And then I'm going to draw down here. And we can give this an exact dimension. So you've got to remember to click. Can be a bit fiddly, this stuff, and then we'll draw a rectangle through there. That's a very rough site limit. Now, the next thing that you can do here, I'm just going to draw that a little bit bigger. The next thing you might want to add is what's called a zone. Now, a zone is required for different types of analysis further on down the track. What you might use zones for things like easements or special reservations that you need to consider on your site. So in order to draw a zone, it's a similar set of tools to drawing the site limit. However, you can actually draw the zone within the actual site limit, and that would become a separate object. Now, after you've drawn your site limits and zones, you want to give these a name so you can identify them later on down the track. So I'm going to call this site 2, and I'm going to call this little zone that I've created here an easement. Okay. Now, moving on to adding vegetation. At the time of recording here, we've got 2 different types of vegetation that we can add. I'm going to pop into 3D here, and we'll look at adding a tree line first. So in order to add a tree line, we click on the tree line tool, click the start and the end, where we would like a row of trees to go. Perhaps we'll continue up here. And then by double clicking, we've now got a line of trees. Very, very basic at the moment. No, you can't change the trees at present in Forma. Perhaps that's something for down the track. But these are important to cast in order to help you analyze shadows. Now, after you've created a tree line, you can change the height of the planting by typing in a height here, and you can also change the spacing of the planting. So do it like that. The other tool we have at our disposal is to create an area with trees. So if you've got like a little forest or an arboretum or something like that, you can just create a whole area populated with trees. If it's a park that you're looking to represent, you might have a very sparse um, range of trees going on there, and you can change the heights here similar to the tree line. Now, moving on, the next sort of major site modeling tool we've got is to add roads. Now, in order to add a road, you click on the transportation tab here and click on road. You can also add railroads if you need those. But what you typically you'll want to be adding a lot of roads. So I've just clicked on the road function, and similarly, we just click a start point and an end point. And we'll just end it there. And then we can then click on the road and adjust its width here. Now, important to remember that roads aren't just there for visualization purposes. These also will be used to calculate things like traffic noise data. If you have any of that information available to you, you can enter that in this tab here. Also to notice with Forma, some of the controls can be very jerky. As you can see here, I'm zooming in and out, and it's really quite responsive. So moving back into the limits now, the third limit that we use in Forma is what's called the constraints tool. Now, the constraints are used to set the sort of maximum volume of the building according to planning regulations. So in order to add one of those, and I'll quickly show you what that is going to look like in the end. So I've got them switched off here. So I've pre-drawn a few constraints here where we've got a height limit and then a setback further back here. So in order to draw those constraints, what we can do is go into our limits tab here and then click on constraints. Now, there's a really useful tool here for this, which is called trace existing shape. So if I was to click that one, then I can actually select the whole site limit and draw the constraint that's drawing up. Draw the constraint straight on the site. Now, typically, you can see here this will try to snap to various types of things. And we can enter the value in here manually, but sometimes it can be useful with a lot of these tools just to sort of get the form in there first, and then you can go into you can click on the form itself and adjust its height and various different properties on this tab here. Now, on the constraints volume here, there's two different types of sort of height measurements. One is called elevation. Now, this is the elevation above the 0 point. And that's where the constraint starts. So what that's doing is it's taking the lowest point on the site. So that you may need to kind of manually sort of adjust this if you need to be a bit conservative. And see what that's done is it's moved the height of the constraint down, and then you can, and then the elevation here is the height above. Oh, sorry, this height here is the height above the elevation. Okay, so once we've got our site information complete, we're ready to start adding some building forms. What we're going to be looking at today is the basic building tool. There are a couple of other ones, line buildings and house, which you can use to model townhouses. Line buildings is a collection of basic buildings, basically. But the first one you want to really get your head around is the basic building tool. So let's go in and start tracing our basic building. I'm going to go into 2D and then orient ourselves more rationally. and creating a basic building similar to creating a constraint, or in which we just click on the tool, and then we can choose either freeform or cube. I'm going to choose cube in this circumstance, and we'll just leave it there. And then I'm going to go, let's go 40 meters that way. And then once we've clicked on that, that has now generated a form inside our envelope there. Now, before we start getting more complicated on the building form, we want to set up a few basic parameters because they will flow onto the other forms that we add onto this building. Now, when we're clicking over our building form, it will highlight either a single floor, or by hitting tab, it will highlight the whole building. So if we highlight the whole building, we can see over here we've got some basic metrics. We've got 4 stories, and I'm going to change the story height to 3.5 in this case. And then now I've done that, I'm going to because I know I want to have a different height level on my ground floor, I'm going to select the ground floor here, and then I'm going to change this height to be 5 meters. Now moving back into our whole building though, I'm going to change the height of the stories to get us a little bit higher or closer to our constraint level there. And that's a good place to continue on from. Now, when we're drawing buildings with setbacks and things like that, I mean, you can stack volumes on top of each other, but I find it's a bit easier to kind of keep the building all together by modifying individual stories and then duplicating those stories above. So what I'm going to do here is add another story just above here, which is going to sit a little bit outside our constraint. And then when I click on the story itself, it'll give me this little dot here. And if I move this dot in, it should hopefully try and snap to the constraint line there. Now you can see here, this is very touchy. So you've got to, it's best to sort of, once you've taken the little dot there, to hover over one of the constraint lines there. Now that should, got the wrong one there, as you can see. That should, there we go. It's kind of come into something or other recently. But yeah, there's a lot of snapping going on in Forma, so you just need to be careful about what you're snapping your building forms to. Now, once we've got a reasonable position for our next part of our building form, so I'm going to continue this up here. We can now click on our new story. Now, if I select this dot here, it will now just add floors according to our default, just for that section there. And once we've got a building form set up, roughly inside our building constraints, we can go and tick off the constraints in the Layers tab here. And this will make it a little bit easier to select our building. Now, by clicking on a story here, you'll see over here that it's given us some data on the design panel here. And the one I want to go into is floor plan, and that will take us into the floor plan sketcher. Now, what I'm going to do is, this is obviously a floor plate of this building down here, and what I can do is start drawing a few lines in order to kind of represent walls. Main thing I want to do is draw a core layer in here. Now, I think I've got north going down the page at the moment. So if I wanted to add a core at the back here, so it picks up this area here, I would probably need to draw a section in here. around about there. Now I could go around and measure this, but for the purposes of this exercise, we're just going to draw roughly where we want a core to go. Now I may also want to divide up my building to some degree. So I'm just going to grab another line here, pop it up there. And you can see starting to generate a few areas in here. Now, in order to develop my floor plan a bit further, I want to add some functions to it. So in order to do that, we click on a space here, and then we can assign a function up here, and we're going to call that circulation. And the unit type is kind of like what this particular unit is being used for, and that will become important later on in analysis. So I'm just going to call that a living unit for the moment. Let's go living unit, and then we'll call that, just going to make that residential. And then call that residential as well. And we can always pop in here and divide these things up a bit further. Now, once we've got a floor plan in there, we'll note down here on our stories level, we've got this now assigned to this level. Now, one of the fantastic things about Forma is that you can take floor plans that you've already drawn in your project, these ones that I've been playing around with already, and you can save this existing one into this section here, which we can use later. Now I'm going to go add that to library. Now, if I want to apply this floor plan to these other stories here, I can click on the three dots here and select all equal floors. I'll go up here and go select all equal floors. And what I can do now is take my floor plan that I've saved here earlier and put it into the plan here. Now I've got a couple of options that I can use. I've got one called fill inside, and what that will do is it will remove anything that's outside the plan and then add some additional space. See here. I can also go stamp inside, and what that will do is that will stamp whatever's inside the floor plan, but remove the boundaries and add anything that's internal. So you can see here, I've now added this space and this space. And I can also go stamp outside. And what that will do is actually add a whole section onto the building here. And then there's also a replace button here if you just want to replace an existing floor plan. I'm just going to keep this simple here and then just add the floor plan directly over the current plan. And you can see here we've added that to all of these floors here. So once you've added that, you can then also specify different functions. So we could, if we were going to specify that section there as commercial, we could do that, but let's just keep it as residential for the moment. Click on our core here. We've made that residential. Now moving up the building, we could always grab some existing, we could grab an existing floor plan, say this one here. If we were to go the stamp inside tool, we could then stamp that floor plan onto this area. Obviously I need to align my cores in here, but we will look at doing those things in a later session. So once you've finished with your floor plans, you can click this button here, and hopefully you'll end up with a proposal that you can then start to work up further.